So, Chris, when you look at working in different territories and different continents and working with different clients and suppliers, is it part of your sort of policy or now event planning requirement that you deploy a level of governance, or do you wait for it to be driven from the client perspective? Who takes responsibility for that now, from your aspect?
It's a difficult one, quite honestly, because it depends on the territory that you're working in. And we, in my personal experience,
let's look at South Africa then, because I know you said, yeah.
Okay, that's one that was kind of fairly high on my list. They had great ambition, but we were dealing with a government and a country that didn't have the kind of infrastructure in place that made doing what we wanted to do particularly easy. And I need to drag in a little bit here as well from an operational point of view. The company that I was working for at the time had a great corporate social responsibility sort of aim, if you like. And one of the things that we found down in the West Indies and particularly in South Africa was that ultimately the guys who were doing the work were not particularly well looked after, treated, paid, or anything. And it was very, very difficult for us to get any kind of consistency because we weren't, the national government didn't necessarily have a particularly good setup for the management, regulation and control of the way the guys who were working for us were actually looked after. And so, for example, there we had to build in our own standards in order to be able to maintain a certain level of consistency in the guys that turned up for work. And a level of professionalism, and also some incentive to get a reasonable standard of work from these guys and output from these guys. Just to give you an example, we took health and safety rules from Europe down there with us, and I stress here event industry health and safety standards, not construction industry by any stretch of the imagination. And we found that, on day one, the guys turned up for work just about dressed, most of them in flip-flops, none of them with any kind of PPE whatsoever. So we had to put a complete structure in place that offered them clothing, but it had to be done in such a way that they didn't just take it straight from the site and sell it, because that was one of the big problems we had in India. So we also needed them to arrive at work on time in the morning. So we found that the best way to get them to turn up for work and also to have the strength and what have you to work as hard as we wanted them to through the day was that we fed them. So everybody turned up at work in the morning at 7 for a 7:30 start. So they all, first of all, got breakfast. But they only got breakfast if they'd got all their PPE with them.